Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach. And this is episode number 310 of Dadvice TV. And we are live on Tuesday, almost said June, July 9th. So welcome everybody out there to this live show. This is a special thing that we do once a month for a half an hour, where I have a real, genuine renal dietitian here to answer your questions. Now, real quick, for those of you out there who are not yet working with a renal dietitian, or perhaps you've been recently diagnosed with kidney disease, let me tell you, the number one thing of everything I've done, and it's been almost 6 years since I was diagnosed with kidney disease, is work with the renal dietitian. Now, renal dietitians are not a dime a dozen. They are hard to find in some areas, and any dietitian can help you. But a renal dietitian has extra training and extra skills to help you put the brakes, slow down the progression of kidney disease, and enjoy eating. When you're diagnosed, it seems like nothing is good for you. But that's not the truth. You can have almost anything, and when you work with the renal dietitian, you learn how to make things that you like fit into your diet. And there is no one diet that works for everyone. Each person should have their diet individualized to them, especially when their kidney function starts getting on the lower side of things. When it's up higher, you're just eating healthy, taking care of your heart. But let's jump right on in to welcoming my co-host. You all know her. You all love her. She has an amazing website, an amazing blog, and a Facebook group that every one of you needs to be part of, and it's all free. Please welcome, from plantpoweredkidneys.com, renal dietitian Jen Hernandez. Hey, Jen.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody. Happy July. Happy late 4th of July. Very excited to be swinging into summer with all of you today.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back. I'm excited for a Q&A, and just a quick introduction. If you haven't seen me here before on Dadvice, my name is Jen Hernandez, and I am a registered dietitian, and I'm the founder of Plant Powered Kidneys. We help people with kidney disease in all stages and situations take care of their kidneys by eating well, eating more foods in their diet, including as much as possible, so they can have a really enjoyable life, not be stressing about food and what's on their plate, and just getting to enjoy more of what's around them, including the friends and family and all the events, especially coming up into the summertime here. So that's what we love doing. I'm actually coming off of a really good high in our Plant Powered Kidneys course. We have a community there, and somebody just posted that they had went from a kidney function of around 60 to 80 in the time that they've been working with us. Yeah, so I'm really, really proud of them, and it's really, really awesome. So if you want to learn more about us, what we do, how we work with people, you can find all of our information at plantpoweredkidneys.com, which you can actually, scan, take a picture basically. Use your phone camera as if you're taking a picture, scan this QR code, and it will go to our website so you can learn more about us. So that's what I got for you for today before we get into our Q&A.
Awesome. Now let's see. We have a question already in. And for all of you out there, if you're watching live, type in your questions. Like right here was my mom. She said, "Good evening, Kidney Warriors." Hey, Mom. It's been a long time since I've been down to visit. But we already have a question from Cindy Barton. She's stage 3B. She's on blood pressure medication, and her blood pressure runs low. Can you talk about sodium intake, especially for those that have blood pressure concerns?
Yeah. So one of the things that the doctors will oftentimes do to help protect the kidneys is to prescribe blood pressure medication. And while it does help with blood pressure control, which is one of the top causes of kidney disease, it actually also can help with reducing protein in the urine, the spilling of protein in the urine. And this is oftentimes one of those protective kidney effects. Even if you don't have high blood pressure, your doctor might put you on like a baby dose of this medication to protect your kidneys. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's a free-for-all for sodium if your blood pressure is running low on this medication. In fact, the medication in protecting your kidneys is actually supported when you're following a lower sodium diet. Now, this can be under the standard guidelines of 2,300 milligrams of salt, which is just under a teaspoon of salt for your entire day. But you might go a little bit lower than that, maybe around 2,000 milligrams. And that's a safe ballpark area. In some cases, it may be helpful to go lower to like 1,500 milligrams, but usually lower than that is really not necessary. And in fact, salt still is an important nutrient for the body. We do need salt. And so it is important to still include. Fortunately, for most people, getting enough salt is not typically an issue because of the foods that we eat that already do have salt in them. Like, for example, breads and rolls and tortillas, those can be kind of heavy in salt. So we get it from things that we don't even realize. Of course, packaged and processed foods will also provide salt too, which I know a lot of you don't focus on a lot of processed food in your diet, which means you get to add salt to your meals when you're seasoning them and cooking them from home. So don't be afraid to use a pinch of salt in your food. That's still totally fine and can fit very easily into a low sodium diet, especially if you are making more food. So all of that to say, around 2,000 milligrams is a safe range for most people to be aiming for when it comes to sodium. And then when it comes to your blood pressure and that medication, if you are noticing your blood pressure is kind of funky, absolutely, definitely talk with your prescribing doctor because they might make a change on the dose of that blood pressure medication so that you feel better. And that's actually what we often see at Plant Powered Kidneys. Somebody might come in to work with us and they're on a higher dose or even several, like multiple blood pressure medications. And after we make changes and follow a lower sodium diet, it helps take care of a lot of things, which can also result in fewer medications or just like lower doses, which can be a really good thing. It can still protect your kidney at that lower dose, but you're doing other things that are also supporting your kidneys.
Perfect answer. And one question related to sodium slash salt that I'm often asked when it comes down to reality, is there really a difference between the different types of salt? Should people steer towards a certain type over a different one, or are they all basically the same?
Yeah, I feel like just some salts have better marketing agents behind them or something because some of them are just all about like, oh, this is the best salt ever and it's so good for you. You know, Himalayan salt definitely had its moment in the sun. And there's also like the Celtic gray salt and the different types of sea salt. No, there's not one that's any better than the other. They all really come down to about the same amount of sodium. It's more so the other minerals that are part of the way the salt is composed because of where they're getting it from different places in the world that have different types of mineral access or quantities of minerals.
Yep, perfect. So everyone out there, grab the salt that is convenient to you.
Mhm.
What's most important, at least to me, when it came to managing sodium and salt, was saying goodbye to that drive-through window, saying goodbye to the heavily processed foods. Both of those are the biggest sources of excess sodium. All
Mhm.
right. So Beverly has a great question. When reading labels and the listed carbs on the label, does that include added sugars?
Yes. So on that nutrition label, you'll see carbohydrates, and then underneath it, you might see that added sugars. The added sugars is part of the total of all of the carbohydrates that are included. So, yes, that's a quick answer for you there. Yes, the added sugars is part of that total carbohydrate summary.
Perfect. Ooh, I see one of our favorite food tracking apps. Someone asked a question. Cindy says, so she's going to she's limited to 1,800 milligrams of sodium, and she tracks it with, I always mispronounce. Is it chronometer or chronometer? I always call it chronometer.
I say chronometer too. Maybe it's chronometer. I mean, tomato. We know what we're saying. We're getting it across.
Yep. And then my mom asks, and I'm glad she's watching, what foods are good for potassium in your diet? So I'm guessing her potassium is running low.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. And that's something actually that's much more common, even with CKD, than people realize because so many people are afraid of potassium. But most of us aren't getting enough to begin with. So that's one of the things I like to encourage is more foods that have potassium. So some of the things that I love to include are basically your favorite foods, depending on what kind of foods you enjoy. Bananas, for the longest time, they have such this bad connotation and people think that it's not good. But bananas are a great source of potassium. There's also potatoes that provide a ton of potassium as well. Avocados, too. Avocados are very rich in potassium, and a little goes a long way, but those can be fantastic to include. Let's see, I did potatoes, tomatoes, avocado. Did I say tomatoes? Potatoes, tomatoes, avocados, bananas. Those are like the big four go to for me. And then other than that, I love encouraging more beans in the diet. And there can be some beans that are higher in potassium versus lower. We do have a whole article on plantpoweredkidneys.com about potassium in different beans. And that can be a really great source too, because beans are not only providing potassium, but they're providing fiber and they're providing plant protein for you as well. So there's a lot of great nutrients there that will support not just your kidney health, but your overall health, because a lot of us don't get enough fiber either. So fiber and potassium they kind of go hand in hand with a lot of foods that they're found in. And so increasing both of those are very supportive, very kidney healthy for your blood pressure, your blood sugars, your weight management, all kinds of things.
Perfect. And then Beverly says, thank you for answering her question earlier. Now, she has high potassium. What foods should she keep an eye out for to limit or remove from her diet?
So when it comes to high potassium, the ones that I mentioned, maybe be careful of, but this kind of also ties back to what we were just saying with chronometer, food tracking. So it won't make sense if I said, oh, don't eat bananas because they're high in potassium if you have a high potassium. And if it's not something that you're eating all the time, that's not going to make a big impact. So my recommendation is to use a food tracker like Chronometer. That's one that I do enjoy. I think it's a great thing to get into. My husband just started food tracking and I got him hooked up with Chronometer. I was like, this is the one you need to use. So we're getting in a Chronometer. I'm showing him all the bells and whistles with it. But you can look at your food history, and then when you actually hover over the potassium, it'll give you like your top 10 foods that are highest in potassium. So whether you need to eat more potassium or eat less potassium, those are the foods that are contributing the most potassium to your diet. And so those are going to be the really good opportunities that will make the most impact. So while we do have an article on Plant Powered Kidneys about the low potassium diet, and I have lists and all kinds of things there, my recommendation to figure out what's best for you is to look at what your diet is telling you. Now, all of that to be said, I don't immediately jump into cutting out high potassium foods, even with a high potassium. And I know some doctors are going to be freaking out about this, but the research shows that the diet potassium is not the same as the blood potassium. And so if the blood potassium is high, that can be an indication that something else is going on. And I don't think practitioners, I don't think physicians or clinicians should just be able to sweep everything away and say, oh, just stop eating potassium in your diet, because that's not necessarily going to solve the problem. It might in some cases, but I think it takes a little bit more digging into other potential causes, because the high potassium is a symptom. There's something else going on. So what is happening? I find a lot of people are experiencing constipation, and that can increase potassium. There might be metabolic acidosis going on, and that can increase potassium. If blood sugars are getting really high, that can increase potassium. And a lot of these things are quite common with kidney patients. So if those things aren't addressed, then the potassium might stay high. And then you're just not eating your favorite high potassium food. So you're like more miserable. And then you still have a potassium out of whack. And so, that's not a good solution. So my recommendation is for sure open up that conversation with your practitioner. Do some deep diving into, okay, what is causing this? And let's just ignore the diet for a minute. What is causing my potassium to be high? And it shouldn't be just, oh, you have kidney disease, that's it. No, there are other things going on here that we can investigate. And so what would those be? And there's a whole bunch of them out there. So this is something that we talk about a lot in the plant powered kidneys course, is kind of diving into all these different contributions. So I really do encourage you to open up that conversation with your provider and figure out more of what's going on before you just run to cutting everything out.
Yeah. And another point about something you said earlier about tracking with the food tracking app, when I was first diagnosed, I kind of looked at food as, oh, if I eat this and that, are they good for my kidneys? Are they bad for my kidneys? Your kidneys don't see the food. They don't see a piece of broccoli. Your stomach breaks it all down to the nutritional value, the minerals and all that stuff that's in there, the vitamins and all that. And that's what your body sees, is all of that. So using an app like Chronometer, you can kind of set allowances. Hey, here's where I should target for potassium, fiber, really important one, and all the other things. And you just eat what you kind of want. Make sure you get enough to stay full and give yourself all your nutrients that you need, and just try not to exceed things. And so the individual foods are no longer really an issue. Now, you may look at something and go, having a piece of pizza, there's a lot of stuff in that, and that's going to really eat a lot of my allowance for sodium and for this and for that. Is that piece worth it? Or maybe I can get by with a smaller piece, or I had a lighter lunch so I can fit it in. To me, that was a huge relief to discover that way of eating using a food tracking app, and not just thinking, oh, potassium, bananas, avocado. Oh, I would be heartbroken if I couldn't have avocado.
Right?
It's great in so many things.
It is.
Now, here's a question from Philip, a regular of ours. Is it really that important? And this is not something you or I have ever said. Is it really that important to not eat animal protein regardless of the amount of protein being spilled?
Yeah. Hi, Philip. I know Philip too. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's regardless of the protein being spilled, but there is definitely plenty of research to say if there's a high amount of protein spillage, then eating more protein isn't going to help that situation. So being more careful, and it's not necessarily pulling so back on protein, but it's just not overdoing it. Like the traditional American diet. I mean, how many times have we seen the steakhouses do the 64-ounce steak challenge, or what, they just serve huge portions. It's very difficult to find a decent portion. So that, I would say, it's just more about pulling back and finding other nutrients that can be helpful, like potassium, really taking advantage of that as much as possible. Yes, switching to plant proteins from time to time is also going to be helpful, but we can't just kind of blanket statements say no matter the protein spillage, no animal protein, because I've had plenty of clients that still include some animal protein and still protect their kidneys, still take care of things, and it's good, and they're happier because they have more flexibility in their diet. We just talk about the balance and what that looks like, and then tracking labs, using Chronometer, tracking the diet, making sure that we're kind of just aware of the opportunities that we have and what's going on there.
Yeah, while I still eat meat, I start with the veggies first. I love sauteed vegetables and things like that. So I kind of fill up my plate a lot with that. And then the meat is almost like my leftover. Like, yeah, I've still got some room for a little bit more. So I'll have some chicken or something like that. And that was a change for me, instead of starting with the meat to fill up my plate, just starting with the vegetables. And I've adjusted easy to that, and it's worked great for me. All right. Diane L asks, and this is a question we've talked about in the past, but it's been a while. Can someone with stage 3 have dairy products?
Yeah, so the thing with dairy products is that they're actually very nutrient dense, which can be a really great thing. They have protein in there, they do have potassium, they have some phosphorus, they have calcium, which is something that I find a lot of my clients don't get enough of in their diet. So oftentimes, if we can include a little bit of dairy, I'm not mad about that. The thing that I sometimes will look at and we talk with that I talk with clients about is the PRAL, and PRAL stands for potential renal acid load. And what it is essentially is a calculation to see how the nutrients balance out from when we digest it. What is the outcome? What is the product? Is it going to be acidic or alkaline? And this could be this could be a very big conversation. So with the PRAL, the things that increase the acidity is the protein and the phosphorus. If foods are high in those, it will increase acidity, which we don't want, because with kidney disease, it already tends to go into the acidic area. So being careful with protein and phosphorus, that's that side. And then to support alkalinity, we have potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And dairy products have these things in there. So they have all 5 of these nutrients. But for example, it could be better to do a regular low fat yogurt instead of a Greek yogurt, because Greek yogurt is higher in protein, which is higher in that acidic side. So doing just like a regular yogurt might be a better option, or mixing or doing like a coconut yogurt or something like that, which is not dairy, it's a dairy alternative, but mixing some of that with a regular yogurt too to help boost some of those other nutrients without the phosphorus and protein. We have articles on plant-powered kidneys about milk. We have articles about cheese and yogurt. I think we're covering those dairy those dairy categories on our blog. So you can search all of those, and we have charts that show the nutrition comparisons of the different options that are available. But all of that to say, yes, like mentioned earlier, everybody has allowances, and how you want to spend your allowance is up to you and what you enjoy. So if it's something that you want to enjoy, then absolutely it can fit into a renal diet. It's just something that I would look at is probably adding like some berries to yogurt, for example, to give a boost in the potassium, add some fiber to it, more of those antioxidants and other beneficial nutrients. That can be a really great addition to yogurt. But however you want to include it, I think that there's very much an opportunity.
Awesome. Now, Anne, who's one of our newer viewers and hopefully a future regular here all the time, has 2 great questions. Can we have leafy vegetables with CKD?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. I will say with some of them, be careful with, a lot of doctors jump on this, which, but you have a blood thinning medication. They worry about vitamin K, and leafy greens are rich in vitamin K. So just let them know that you want to have more like leafy greens in your diet, because they'll be checking your blood thinning capability, the vitamin K in your body, and adjusting your medication. It's not a matter of avoiding leafy greens in those situations. It's more so having consistency of how much you have it in your diet. That way they can titrate the medication to match what you're eating. So that's kind of like a specific example there. But otherwise, I think leafy greens are a fantastic addition, and most of us aren't getting enough of them anyway. So whether you like spinach or kale or lettuce or arugula, you can do a mixture of all of them, whatever you like. I think it's a great thing to add into your diet that provides more nutrients, more volume, a different type of texture, oftentimes a different flavor. Like if you haven't tried arugula, it adds a really good peppery flavor. You might love it, you might not like it, or somewhere in between. But the point is to try some new options to expand and have more foods available to you for your renal diet. So leafy greens, definitely yes.
All right. And Anne had a second great question. What oils can we use for sauteed vegetables? One of my favorite things to make.
Yes, sauteed, roasting, also very good. So with a saute, you want to use something that has like a higher smoke point. A lot of people default to olive oil, which is okay, but it has a lower smoke point, and it's actually more appropriate to use olive oil for non-cooking. So basically like salad dressings. That's a good way to use it, or very low heat. Sauteing, you're usually doing like a medium to high heat. So I would use something like, oh, what do I have right now? Avocado oil. That's really my go-to.
That's
I
my
use,
go-to.
yeah, that one's really easy. Canola oil is another one that you can use. If you do want to use olive oil, it's fine. It's not going to be a huge. You probably won't taste like a huge difference, but honestly, I think avocado oil. It's very available right now in stores, easy to use. Grapeseed oil is another one that would work. I don't seed oils are okay. I'm hoping that we don't get into a big like seed oil argument. Seed oils are safe and they're fine. And it's any talk about like inflammation, they're not, it has to be such a high quantity of any kind of oil to be contributing inflammation. So seed oils are still okay.
Now, here's a question. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not. Tyler asked, "Is alpha lipoic acid okay as a CKD supplement?" I'm not sure what that supplement is for, or if you can address it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it at our last Q&A. And the overall answer was it's fine, but what's the point of it? What are you aiming to it? Like what is the objective in taking it? And it's not, there's not a lot of like specific kidney research into it. So I don't know if it's anything like directly related to kidney health, but it is kind of a trending supplement right now. I just haven't seen much research about it directly related to kidney health. So I think, check with your doctor and make sure medically there's nothing, or a pharmacist. They're always a really good resource as well for like any type of medication interactions. But you can find out. It's just, I don't think there's a lot behind that I know of. And y'all know I'm really big into the research, happy to look into it. So if you find research, you can send it our way. But at this point, I don't see a lot of research looking at kidney health for it.
And I'll tell you, I love the question you asked at the beginning. Why are you taking it? Supplements are to address a deficiency. Usually you're not getting enough of something in your diet, and it may be too difficult to eat it. So a supplement could help. When I first got started, my doctor recommended fiber supplements until I could get used to having the right amount of fiber. One of those
Mm-hmm.
special things that we all need to make sure we're getting enough of in our diet. Fiber is your friend. But anyway, we have a question I want to get in before we're out of time, because we're coming up at the end of our half hour. Gina, another regular. Hey, great to have you here, Gina. Welcome back. Can we eat eggs with CK3? And do you have any comments on how many eggs a person should eat in a day?
Yeah. I know like kind of the typical is like a 2 egg breakfast or something like that. I mean, that's just kind of what I think of with like a diner breakfast. So I'm going to say yes, but I would also encourage maybe doing some other breakfasts throughout the week that aren't revolved around eggs. So the thing that I'm thinking about primarily is the protein, and they're not high in protein necessarily. 1 egg is about 7 grams of protein. So it by itself is not terribly high. However, if you are somebody who likes to have like a couple eggs, a 3 egg omelet or something, then that can be 20, 30 grams of protein when you put like everything else into the meal. And in some cases, that might be quite a bit of your protein for the day. In stage 3, we're not looking at a low protein diet. We're looking at more of just like a regular, normal protein diet. But that's kind of confusing this day and age with like how much protein is being pushed into everything and like how every single food item needs to have so much protein. It's overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
But um, but we don't need that much protein. And if you have kidney disease, it is more important to not overdo it in your protein, but to make sure you're getting other nutrients as well. So I would say if you do like 1 or 2 eggs a few times a week, that's probably going to fit into your diet. If you did it every single day, it would also probably fit into your diet, but I would recommend looking for other, maybe some plant-based meals in other parts of your day to help get you other nutrients and make sure you're not getting too heavy into the protein. Other considerations, eggs aren't really a source of potassium. The egg yolk does have phosphorus in it, but it's not that high. And the egg yolk actually has a lot of other good nutrients. So I think having like the whole egg is fine, because that yolk it is rich in nutrients, including vitamin D, which not a lot of food gives us vitamin D. So I think there's some benefits to it if it's something you want to include and you like to include in your diet. Just don't do multiple eggs day after day.
Perfect. All right, that takes us to the end of our time together this month. I want to thank everyone out there who posted their questions and is joining us. Please give the video a thumbs up, share it. Let's spread the knowledge out to more people. Make sure to visit plantpoweredkidneys.com. I'm going to bring Jen's camera back up here so that you guys can see that QR code in the upper corner. If you take a photo, put your phone in photo mode, aim it at that, you can then click on it and it will take you right to plantpoweredkidneys.com. An amazing website with such an informative blog with so much information. I love you're doing the Vanna White there with it. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Scan me.
Wait, here we go.
And join Jen's amazing Facebook group. It is full of other CKD people that are very positive and supportive, helping each other out. My favorite thing in there is seeing photos of the amazing and delicious looking meals that people make and how they've come up with these recipes to mix things together and just make eating enjoyable as a kidney patient. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here. I'll see you next month, and I'll see all of you out there in the world in our very next video. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your month. Bye, everyone.